Alright, so the most challenging experience that we had in this physics class is definitely in the first quarter was shoot for your grade lab. That lab was really hard because the equipment that we had was a little bit inaccurate, and also all the different equations that we had to use made it very difficult, and it took a while and a lot of tries before we got it. It was more of a learn from failure kind of lab, which is kind of disappointing, but it wasn't bad, but it was really hard for us.
The most memorable lab for us was the physics boat lab because we spent a lot of time bonding with each other and working together, forming creative ideas outside of school. We worked together to build a boat for Liam to go into and cross the pool, and it took a lot of time and effort.
The most fun lab was the physics boat lab, mainly because we got to use our own knowledge, we got to use tools and have our own creative touch to our own boat. We got to hang out with classmates outside of class, and we got to bond more, and it was a really hands-on experience, and it was really fun, and it was also very memorable. It was also fun because during the physics battle royale, we got to see how long our boat would last and compared it to others, and the intensity of seeing if our boat would sink or float. That was really intense and really made it fun for us.
The lab where we learned the most is the momentum lab, because we got to calculate out the velocity, and then in the actual lab we put two cars together and then used the speedometer or whatever to find the actual velocity, and then we could compare to the two and see how close we were. So we learned a lot because we could see how the hands-on is is close to the calculated. And
the lab that we could improve on the most, I have to say it'd be the egg drop. Mostly because all the groups broke except one, and some of them went in the bushes near it, which twice in a row. So it was just all around. I didn't really like it we didn't really like it actually as a lab, and the fact that we had such little amount of time is kind of a little unfair. And with the materials that we had, I don't think we should have been graded on whether we brought materials or not, or how many we brought. And also, I don't think that we should have had to brought our own, because some people can't bring as much as others can. So it was kind of an unfair lab. And I also think we should have been able to use different kinds of materials instead of just straws, because it's kind of hard with the straws. I think the person who made it actually got lucky. But no, they did good. And I think even if we just used straws, I think just a little bit more time would have been perfectly fine to fix the lab and make it a little bit more enjoyable.
We believe the class is perfectly fine. We learned conceptual stuff, like calculations, and real-life applications, so we have no other suggestions.
This lab was called the Mirror Lab. The objective of this lab was to get a laser to bounce off multiple mirrors to hit either a 10, 9, or an 8. You do this by using angles of incidence and reflection. The tools we needed for this lab were lasers and mirrors, and rulers and a protractor to find the angles.
To find out where the laser will hit, you must first find what the angle of incidence and reflection is, so that when the laser bounces off the mirror, you'll know where it will go. To find angle of incidence, use a protractor, and angle of incidence, which is the angle from the normal line, should be the same as the angle of reflection. By using the angle of reflection, you can find out where the line will be pointed towards and where it will bounce off the next mirror to hit its mark.
Now that we have calculated the angle of incidence and reflection, we will test our experiment by putting the mirrors on where we marked and shooting a laser to see if it hits the 8, 9, or 10. Make sure when you're testing your experiment that the lights are off and that the back of the mirrors used are on the line, not the front.
Now that we have finished all the calculations, we can see if the laser will hit the 10. And It looks like it did.